So I'm Oscar Smith and I'm playing Aegeus.
So we're doing Theseus and the Minotaur, and I'm the Minotaur.
I'm Peter and I'm Theseus.
Christian and I'm King Minos.
I'm Sophie and I'm Rodney, Minotaur's sister and daughter of Minos and Pasiphae.
I'm Gemma and I'm playing Pasiphae.
Okay, so when King Minos of Crete tried to trick Poseidon out of his best bow, he was punished by getting a half-man, half-bull son called the Minotaur. Minos imprisoned his wife and son in a labyrinth under his place at Knossos. And when his eldest son, Androgeus, was killed in Athens, demanded that the Athenian king Aegeus send 7 young men and 7 young women to Crete every 7 years as punishment. This continued until the son of Aegeus, Theseus, decided to put an end to it. He was helped by the daughter of Minos, Ariadne, and succeeded in killing the Minotaur but tragically forgot to change the sails on his returning ship from black to white, so his father thought he had died, and in despair threw himself off the nearest cliff.
This is a tale of 2 cities.
Athens.
And Crete. It has vile villains.
A noble hero.
A wrong wife.
And a hideous monster.
It is a tale of deceit. Of shame.
Of love.
Wait. Oscar.
Oscar.
Oh, of murder. Of revenge.
Of bravery.
Of sacrifice. Of victory.
Oh, dang it. No. Dude, didn't you have the mask on?
Okay. Go, Theseus.
I did.
You said your part?
Yeah, I said my part.
Go. Minos.
You go.
Okay, you mean of my wife.
So let's see how the story unfolds, starting with the deceit.
You mean of my wife going off with the white bull and then bearing its son?
Son, father, you were. You might make fun of my father, that magnificent white bull, but if you hadn't so shamefully kept him for yourself when you should have given him to Poseidon, none of this mess would have happened.
Indeed, what a foolish gamble to give Poseidon your second best bull, when the deal was that you give him your best each and every year. Did you really think you'd get away with it? It was a stupid mistake I made.
I'll say, even as a mere girl, I knew how much our people would depend on the sea for food and defense. Our ships need Poseidon's protection, and you're ready to risk that by upsetting Poseidon just so you can keep that bull instead of giving it away as a sacrifice?
Greedy and extremely foolish, I'd say.
If there's one thing I can't stand, it's a full of himself, self-satisfied hero. So easy to say what's right and what's wrong after the event. What a great thing is hindsight.
Oh, do stop your whining. Anyone would think that it was you that suffered the consequences of your bad judgment.
Huh. If only he found out about Minos' deceit. Poseidon made me fall in love with my white bull, and my husband had kept back, and so I gave birth
To
to
me,
a monster truly horrible to behold.
I see compassion and pity are still high on your list of fatherly qualities.
It was just so shameful having a son. Like you. Half man, half beast. What else could I have expected to do other than hide you away? With me in a labyrinth under your palace at Knossos.
No escape, no light, no warmth, just left to die. Had you no shame?
How could you?
To have me as a son was your fault.
And then you learned what it was to suffer. To lose our eldest and favorite son, Androgeus, was a victim of such foul play.
A terrible crime committed in my city of Athens, and at such an event.
Poor lad taking part in those games is only a sin of that being a great athlete and a competitor. How tragic his life should be ended by lesser than mortals, ones made by jealousy.
My dear brother, taken away by a group of British thugs, probably nephews of Aegeus, is but needless to say far too cowardly to come forward and admit to their heinous crime.
Yes, and thanks to their wickedness, our city was to suffer the loss of 7 fair young men and women every 70 years from that time on. A terrible revenge to wreak on our fair city.
But I was just justified. The sacrifice of those 7 men and 7 women every 7 years went some way towards righting the wrong of your city did to ours.
Our poor youth, little did those human sacrifices realize what awaited them when they left to the city of Crete.
Me, but spare me, I thought. I had to eat, and there they were, left to wander around my maid. I did the kind thing. If I hadn't eaten them, him, you'd only have died of starvation. There was no way of finding your way out of that maze once you were inside. That court architect, Theseus, certainly knew his stuff.
Not a happy tale till now, not for anyone.
Thank goodness for heroes, just as well as I was on hand to save the day.
Oh, but even you, oh great Theseus, would have had it impossible to kill the Minotaur without my daughter's help.
Thanks, Dad. I was wondering when you'd get around to acknowledging my part in the happy ending.
You can't say I didn't warn you about these heroes and their egos.
I guess, but then love is blind. The minute he stepped off that boat, along with the other Athenians to be sacrificed, I fell for him hook, line, and sinker.
Yes, I remember you trying to reel me in almost before I got off the boat. You certainly didn't hang about. My dad had warned me about certain pushy Cretan ladies, but I hadn't realized they'd be quite that forward.
Can't say that I remember you putting up much of a fight.
Well, yours was the best offer of the day, that being a sword and a ball of thread which will find my way out of the maze.
He might have been a hero, but he certainly would have won me over in the romantic stakes.
My son, he knew what he was there for, and he succeeded.
Only because he had an unfair advantage. Giving him a sword, indeed, that wasn't the rules. He'd have been yet another failed matador, dangling from one of my horns, if it hadn't been for the sword. Thanks for nothing, half-sis.
But sadly, even more tragedy was to follow. Rodney might not have proved the perfect daughter,
Or half-sister.
but Theseus was to prove less than a perfect son.
Oh, excellent. Do you mean this hero wasn't as wonderful as he had us to believe? Do tell, I can't wait to hear.
It was no laughing matter. My poor father surely can find it in your heart to feel sorry for another old man who thought you lost his eldest son, just like you felt and feeling about Androgos all those years ago.
I'll never forget the pain of that loss, but you returned. Wasn't he delighted to see you?
He should have been, but my haste to return home, I forgot to tell him my father's last words to me when I sailed back off Crete.
I asked that he change the sails of his ship from black to white on his return, if he was on board and alive. So when I saw his ship returning with black sails, I jumped to the conclusion. He was dead.
He jumped off the nearest cliff.
Not such a happy homecoming. Excuse me if I don't shed too many tears on your behalf.
You're excused. You were, after all, another tragic victim in your own way.
Okay. Yes, I am feeling guilty, riddled with it, in fact. Satisfied. Look, I put my hands up. It was my fault this all came about.
At last, you have no idea how long that apology has taken in coming.
Still better than late than never, as they say. We've all suffered in some way from that first fateful mistake. Let's hope that God show greater mercy on us in future dealings.
And that we face up to our faults.
And don't try to brush the truth under the carpet.
Or down in the depths of the earth.
And don't take our grief out on innocent bystanders.
Maybe we should all take more time to consider the consequences of our actions.
And have the humility to recognize that we all make mistakes.
However great we think we are.
So this tale of two cities come to an end. We're all victims either of our own personal failings or of those of others. But with all great stories, this one has taught us many lessons.
So let's hope the lessons aren't learned.
And that our suffering will be left lessened.
We must all take responsibility for our actions.
And then let's hope the world will be a happier place.